This is On the Flywheel, a podcast where each week we talk to entrepreneurs and professionals about the practical things they do to build and keep momentum in their personal and professional lives. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of On the Flywheel. I'm your host, Jonathan Mart of Flywheel Consulting, and today we have with us Ryan Larrabure of Larrabure Construction and Design.
That's correct.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, no problem.
So we like to jump right into just giving a little bit of background about, who you are, how you got to where you are today and what you do now.
Sure. I was born and raised here in Petaluma, and when I graduated high school, I started painting, and then I went to college.
My worst nightmare.
Yeah, I went to college for a while, bounced around with different things I wanted to do, architecture, then I got into accounting, and then I just started running my own business right out of, about 22 years old. Started doing that. I'd say now, maybe 12 years ago, I got a job at the Coast Guard Training Center outside of town, running about 15 guys there in construction. And I really realized at that point that doing construction was not what I wanted to do, but I wanted to run crews of people.
Sure.
The management and that part of it was what I wanted to do. So when that contract was up, we started our own construction business. And here we are. I think it's 7 years later with that.
Cool.
And we have six full-time crew members.
So I met you then, right when you were getting your, right around when you were getting your business off the ground, or right after maybe.
Yeah.
We met maybe in 2018, maybe somewhere in there.
Like that, yeah.
So I didn't realize you were that fresh when we first met.
Fresh for that, for this actual business.
Right. No, obviously doing construction for a while.
And I had run the crew at the training center, and then on the off season I would run those guys. We would do projects together to keep, because we found that it was really hard to find good people who were seasonal, because it was 7-8 months a year. So it was hard to find good people. So if we didn't keep them busy, we would lose them.
Right.
So
and then they go on to the next
and
thing.
my stepdad was the one running the whole contract, so I had a lot of emotional connection to keeping it going for him. So we kept the best guys, and I kept them working. And then when we got done, I thought, well, what are we going to do with all these good guys that we found? So we just kept
them running.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I know. On the family farm we have that problem sometimes. If construction slows down, suddenly we get a bunch of people showing up, and I'm like, well, if you just came from construction, I'm probably not going to hire you, because as soon as construction gets busy again, you're gonna take off again, and so then we're gonna put all this time and effort into training you.
Yep.
And I can imagine that the reverse is true, because they're not gonna they may not go back to where they were before. They may go some other place, get another offer. So I mean, certainly being able to hold on to good people is super important.
Key, for sure.
Okay, so you've been doing the construction thing for a long time now. How's it been going? I mean, how was this process of starting your own business and building it?
Oh, well, when we started, it was me and somebody who'd worked for me out there, and a couple other guys, and then one of them left, my guy that had been with me forever, and he's a good friend of mine, and I thought it was the end of the world, because he knew exactly how to do everything. Right. And we had to hire some new young people, and I hired a young kid. It must have been 6 years ago, and I knew when I first met with him, I said, I don't care if you have any construction experience. I just want somebody who wants to learn and who's can follow our plan and is a good person, because we do primarily or almost exclusively interior residential remodels. So you're in people's houses, you're dealing with their kids, with their spouses, their animals, their intimate private spaces. So you need somebody who's
you gotta have someone with a little tact and a little care.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the 3 young guys that we have working young, they're 27 now. They didn't have really any experience when they first started with us, and you see a lot of turnover in small residential construction, and they've been with us now for almost the whole time.
Wow.
So 6 years.
So I'm pretty sure at least some of those I remember you talking about, and
they're still with us.
Wow,
We've lost 2. So we had a total, I think, of 5 guys that are all from the same group of friends. They've all referred each other. 2 of them went on to different careers, but 3 out of the 5 have been with us for almost 6-7 years now.
Wow.
So I think it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. So what do you think has allowed you to keep them? Because I would say in general, less even millennials and more so younger folks, I guess Gen X or whatever, Gen Z, sorry, they don't stick around in jobs very long, 2 or 3 years at most, and then they're on to the next thing. So what do you think has been the difference for you?
One is just, I think my personality, I don't get upset, I don't yell and scream, we can't contract that way in what we're doing when we're in people's houses and they're home a lot of the time for a lot of this.
Yeah.
We take care of them. I mean, compensation-wise, we try to take care of them, but we also, for a small business, we offer health insurance, retirement, all that kind of stuff that I don't think many small businesses, I'm pretty sure most small businesses our size don't, especially in construction, don't offer that kind of stuff. And now I just find giving them responsibility and let them, like, I don't even like when they call me and ask me questions, like, just, you guys can make the decisions yourself. So I think they enjoy that, they get some freedom.
So basically treat them right, give them opportunities to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I had to summarize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Do you think, does it seem like you're going to be able to continue to hold on to them for the long term?
I think so. The hard part is the growth. Like, if we don't grow, so if we don't double in scale, like if we don't grow that big, then there's only so much they can do, right? Especially in construction, you can only have so many project managers or so many salespeople.
Someone's still got to swing the hammer.
Correct. So what are you gonna, that's the real challenge I see. And with the couple of the older guys that work for us, they kind of want to get into the next level too.
Right.
But you need them to guide the other guys. We don't need them doing sales. I need them to be training and doing that. So that's a bit of a challenge. What the next step is for them. But
I think that's one thing I've seen too is there is an element of it where unless you have a clear growth strategy and you're going to create more positions like you're talking about, at some point you have to accept people are going to move on, and you have to have a way to fill a pipeline and retrain new people, and they're going to be good for 4 or 5 years until they kind of cap out and they're ready to move on to their next opportunity. And that just is what it is when you're a small business.
100%. We've actually I've discussed with kind of my lead young guy an actual model that is kind of about hiring young people that want construction jobs. So these young guys, they didn't fit the mold of going to college. They weren't college-bound guys. They kind of bounced around with high school. They graduated, but it wasn't easy for them. They didn't want to go to school.
Right.
And we know there's lots of young people that fit that don't want to go to college. So we've thought maybe we could actually hire them with the idea being they're only going to work for us for a couple years, and kind of as a trade school, training them with the full knowledge that they're not going to be with us for more than a year or two while we teach them, and then we bring in new people to do the same thing. So
that is you see lots of big companies do those kinds of things, right? Maybe not necessarily in the trades as much, or at least I don't have. Well, even in the trades, right? They have trade schools. They pull them in for a couple of years, and then they move them up the ranks, or they go on. Big companies will hire college graduates right away. They have a whole program and recruiting college kids. I think that's a smart. That's a really smart idea, and I think that's an interesting thing to talk about too. When I was in high school, and probably you too, college education was the biggest deal, 100%. Right? I literally had, I remember a counselor telling me I think it was either me or someone else in the class asked what if you can't afford to go to a particular school? And their advice literally was just worry about getting in, and then everything else will figure itself out. Well, that's also now how people end up with huge amounts of student loan debt, and they complain that the system screwed them. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think the point I want to highlight is that going into the trades is, I think, often severely. I'm trying to think about how to say that, but people look down on it. But actually, it's a great career opportunity.
Yep. I heard I don't know where I heard the statistic, but it was for every 7 construction positions in, I don't know when the time frame they were doing this, there's only one young person coming in to fill 7 positions right now.
Wow.
So there's going to be a need for tradespeople.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know people in the trades that are making a great living, and they started making that great living when they were 18.
Yeah.
Because even now, different trades pay pretty well, even when you're right out of the gate, even as an apprentice. It's it's probably more money. It's at least the same or even more money than your first, corporate job out of college.
Yeah, 100%. And like for our guys, what they get to do is they get to spend time with the homeowners too, which is, if you get a job and you're working in a cubicle or you're doing, even other jobs, but they get to actually interact with the owner of the house almost daily. A lot of the younger guys have become friends with they'd be like older parent age people for them. Like they'd be our parent, parents age.
Yeah.
And by the end of a project, they talk about each other like they know things about each other that you wouldn't imagine gets talked about. But because you're in their space, and the crew, they're just personable, good people, and the homeowners love them. So that's all part of it. So I think that gives them a little bit more buy-in to what we're doing.
That's cool. I think one thing I wanted to chat about is if you are, if you're paying, clearly you're paying at least competitively or maybe or above market rates in order to keep people for so long, because people will hop for $1 now. But that also must mean that you're not the cheapest guy around when it comes to getting jobs.
100%. Really, for me, profits are what obviously we need that to survive, but what we do with doing kitchens and bathrooms and it's art, it's art, and it's a lot of fun to build those things. And so to me, if we make a little bit less, but we can turn over an awesome product that the homeowner loves, the guys love to be part of, then it's worth it.
Yeah. So how are you? I mean, do you have how sophisticated is your process for costing out a job and estimating a job and then tracking how profitable you are on a job?
It's challenging because everything we do is, we don't do, we'll install flooring for somebody, but other than those square foot tasks, every project is 100% unique. So it's a bit, that's probably something that I struggle with the most, is if I wasn't part of the business, how somebody else would price something would be a challenge.
Yeah.
Just because it's so unique. The projects are so unique.
So you haven't really been able to come up with some sort of a system or consistent way of...
Not really. Like I said, that's
work in progress.
To grow and to scale, obviously that part is... I think that's something small trade businesses run into a lot. The ceiling, you hit that and it's you have to somehow train somebody else to do what you're doing, but you have to spend the time to pay attention to all the stuff. So.
That's something I've been interested in, and something I've been wanting to try and figure out how to help tradespeople with is, and this is a kind of a general small and medium-sized business thing, is that, and this isn't directed at you necessarily, is that lots of folks don't know their numbers well. And so they think that they're making X amount of money on jobs or on whatever their work is, whatever their product is, but actually they're often making more, or sometimes they're making more, but often they're making actually less money than they think when you start accounting for all the costs that you should be wrapping into those 100%. Things. And so I think that's a really important thing for small business owners 100%. To focus on, which of course
One thing I noticed when I took my contractor's license test was how little knowledge people had in the trades of how businesses work. So I had years, all the college, prerequisite accounting classes, so I have a pretty decent knowledge of how it all works. I was teaching people in the classes, they didn't know what an income statement was, they didn't know what a balance sheet was, they didn't know how any of that was connected. So there's a need, and I'm part of a group for the Marine Build Association that's the education group that works with getting young people in, and I want to be part of something that gets young business owners, people who want to be the actual run the business side into construction too.
Okay.
Because I think there's going to be who's going to run the small businesses.
Yeah, well, you need the small shops too. I don't, you don't want to just work always with the big guys.
Yeah.
So is the goal for you to grow? How much is enough? How do you make that decision about where the sweet spot is for you?
We now have a cabinet sales business that we started to support our kitchen remodel business. So we do kitchen cabinet design.
So you're focused on kitchens and bathrooms primarily.
Kitchens and bathrooms primarily.
Okay.
And the kitchens are what we love to do because we have the sales part of it for the cabinets. But you can't just do somebody's kitchen because they want you have to do their bathroom so you can work with them to then hopefully do their kitchen or their friend's kitchen.
Oh, so the bathroom gets you in the door with people.
And sometimes
interesting.
Sometimes the projects are challenging, and you don't really want to do them. And I would really love if we just did 20 kitchens a year and that was all we had to do. But when somebody wants their bathroom done, how do you tackle that? You pass that on to somebody else, or you don't do it, and then they get that person, and then.
Well, because those are probably the two biggest projects that happen inside a home, remodel projects that happen inside a home, right? Like bathrooms and kitchens. Because after that, what else is there really?
Yeah,
I mean,
flooring and paint.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not a whole lot.
Yeah,
not a whole lot
interesting. I hadn't really thought about that until just now.
So it kind of gets us. That kind of gets us in. I live a substantial distance from where we work, from where our business is. So I do a lot of work remotely, and it's given me a chance to think about how to open a second location closer to where I live. Not do that location exclusively, but keep this location and then open a second location. I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet.
Yeah, that's tough.
If I want to, I know I want to do it, but I don't know that I want to sacrifice what it's going to take to do that. And then the challenge also is growing up in a place. It's super easy to, if I can meet somebody and do a cabinet design for them and tell them it's going to be $50,000, and they trust that they're going to get their stuff,
right? Because
they know, like, I'm part of the community here. That we're part of the community here. I'm afraid in other locations it's going to be more challenging. As a small, like you can go to the brick and mortar store. We don't really have a brick and mortar store,
right?
So we do it all remotely. We come to our clients' houses with a product. It's a little bit more difficult to make them comfortable with the sale. So.
Yeah, that's true. But I think you do. I mean, not to get too far down advice territory, it's like you have you're an established business. Yeah. You have a story to tell to people, right? We moved to this new area. We have an established business here. We want to start something up closer to home.
Sure.
Here's all the great projects we've done and all the testimonials.
Yeah, I think it's really just a way for me to not have to take the step to do it, because I don't know, I don't know how it would go.
Yeah,
I'm kind of afraid that I can't see that it would fail, but I'm just afraid. I don't know. It's just it's a lot more comfortable.
It's easy to just keep doing what you know. I mean,
we get referrals. I mean, weekly we're getting 2 or 3 phone calls from somebody referred by somebody here.
Yeah.
So it's just it's easy.
Right.
One of the challenges I'm seeing now, though, and I'm sure a lot of small businesses experience this, is when you do your sphere, like you have your sphere of people,
right?
And I think about with my brother, like I did his kitchen, and I did people that he know. We did their kitchens over the last couple years,
right?
So we're going through and people only need a kitchen once or twice a year, in their lifetime.
Right.
It's not something you get done every 5 years. So how do we grow outside of that relatively close sphere?
Yeah.
That's what we're bumping into now is like,
well,
we don't have an outside salesperson, which is something I have to figure out because we're bumping into that.
I have 2 suggestions for you. One is, what if you took 1 or 2 of these experienced young guys and see if they want to move closer to you and have them start. That's the way to grow. Or the older guys, like someone on your team existing that's willing to relocate and wants to help you run your second thing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would recommend, for me, that's been very helpful starting out. I mean, you kind of you're part of the Marin Builders Association, but there's lots of great networking groups like BNI, which I'm sure you're familiar with, which is a great way to get connected with people and get people to learn to trust you to make referrals to you.
Yeah.
Because you also not being here means that you have, you're coming, you're driving here, and you're meeting with people, but you're trying to cram everything into a couple days a week. Yeah. And so it's going to be hard to make new connections once you've, you exhaust.
And that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
And
unless you start really aggressively advertising, which is expensive too.
Yeah, which is expensive. And I've thought of some unique ideas of setting up vignettes or small sample things in different shops, like flooring stores and stuff like that, where we can partnering with them, so we don't have to actually have we don't have to pay for a space.
Sure.
But it starts to get difficult.
Yeah.
They don't want to spend time selling your product unless you're gonna.
Yeah.
Get, it's difficult, but.
Well, let's we could probably go all day about this, but I want to keep moving a little bit. I just want to touch on a couple more business related things. First off, what do you consider the best part and the worst part about what you do?
The best part, honestly, now it's being part of the design side of things for the business. I mean, I love running the business itself, but I love the design part. Taking somebody's ideas and creating, like at the end of the project, you work with somebody for a year, you meet with them, you design something, you take what they want, and then a year later, you see this finished product, and
That's
that
cool.
part's really awesome. And I've been doing a lot more on the design, because we do a lot of our design, almost all of our design as well.
Are you the one doing all the design in your business?
Yeah, I don't want to I'm not full credit, but like I do a lot of our drawings. I'm really starting to get more into like for our permit submittals and doing those like more in-depth drawings. I'm starting to do more of that. So I kind of wish I'd actually gotten into back like 25 years ago, gotten into architecture.
Being an architect, yeah.
Now I wish I kind of had went that way with some more experience. So that's probably the part that I enjoy the most about it now, other than just it's so neat just having like a crew of people that are part, like a family.
You enjoy the camaraderie.
Yeah,
of it.
it's awesome having just being a business, running a business like is just awesome in all in itself. The challenge is now, I mean, just being 2 hours from here. On a like micro level is difficult. Like when I lived here, if there was a problem, somebody could call me and I could be there instantly.
Yeah.
But that's not a great way to run a business. Like you can't grow a business if you're the one who, if 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, there's a problem,
right.
You have to be the one who runs over there. So that's really trained me to delegate and give.
Yeah, force you to figure out how to delegate, build good systems and processes, because you can't just use manpower to cover up any deficiencies in your business.
Correct.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And leaning on people to do things that you wouldn't necessarily like always lean on them for.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit more, because I think that's interesting.
Some of the young
small business owners struggle to delegate.
So I don't have a choice, right? Like, if anything, moving 2 hours away, I don't have a choice. If I'm going to run a business from 2 hours away, I have to be able to trust everybody that works for us. Mm-hmm. And I tell them when they call me or when they ask me questions, like, you guys know you don't have to call me for this decision. If it's something that's going to be a big problem if we do it wrong, by all means, I want to talk about it. But day-to-day stuff, just go for it. What's the worst that we're going to have to redo something small? But it's so much better for me. If I'm in the middle of working on something else, I don't want to call about, what do you think about the size of the grout line for the bathroom tile, right? Like, you can make that call on site. So I've given a lot of that to them. And then also given up, it's been a challenge. My wife works with me. Mm-hmm. She does a great job running all of our back-end stuff, bookkeeping. I just met with our insurance guy, and I don't even talk to him that much because I get emails from her saying this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't deal with that stuff. That's been a huge challenge, is giving up all of that, like giving up any kind of control over just that control.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge, my wife runs her own bookkeeping business now, and she focuses on contractors, and she sees the same thing. It's a challenge. We don't want to give up control the way we did it.
Right.
We don't want to do that. So
yeah, I mean, I was trying to do some outreach to trades folks, and it's hard to get them to like even want to talk to you about changing anything, even if they know that they need the help. They're like, keep doing things the way I've been doing them.
I've noticed that with, maybe it's just my background in like really enjoying the business side of things, but people that do really good, that have really good business, not the business side, but they produce a really good product. Mm. They do a lot of business. How like right on the edge it is of like one thing, it could fall off, and like they're just skating by, like not the rules, and the rules are tough to follow, all the employment rules and all of that stuff. But there's some people that
I mean,
right on the edge.
Construction industry trades are notorious for, there's the people that try and do everything 100%, and then there's a lot in between there.
And it's a challenge to try to follow all.
No, it's not easy, especially in California. It's hard to run a business in California, especially when you're small and you don't have a whole HR department to take care of everything, and a safety and compliance department to do everything and make sure everything's, right. You don't have full-time people. It's you wearing all of those hats. So The delegation part of it, I mean, has anything gone wrong when you've been making these calls? Say you make the decision, any major mess ups?
Not major. I mean, the one thing, a challenge I think we, as the founders, is when there is a problem, keeping your mouth shut and not making a big deal about the problem. I specifically asked some people last week to do a specific task, and I got there and that task wasn't done, and I have to explain to them, like, the schedule's built with these things being done.
Right.
I don't just ask you to do this because I want you to fill your day with work, but you can't go in there and yell at, like, be upset. Like, I didn't go in upset about it. I tried to explain, like, there's a reason I asked you to do it this way. I appreciate you taking the initiative and doing it, but there's a reason we're doing it in this progression. But I don't yell. I don't get upset. I try to be as, like, calm as possible with that, because you're going to crush them.
Right.
Like, somebody takes a chance and does it, and then you yell at them for doing, I mean, it's marginal.
Right.
It didn't cause a problem. It was just like a marginal.
As long as they had good reasons for doing it, you know. Yeah. I think that's my experience too. Like, I'm never going to be upset at someone that at least had a reasonable reason for why they did it and the decisions that they made. Yeah. It's if you just, like, on the other hand, if you do something and then I ask, why did you do that? You're like, I just felt like it, or I just decided to do it. Yeah. I didn't think it through at all. Yeah. That's a different conversation that we have to have.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's a great thing that that you're mentioning too, is that you're explaining, not just telling people to do things. I think this is an important part of delegation, but explaining why you're doing them, because that also empowers them to make better decisions on their own in the future.
Absolutely. One thing with the delegation part of it is knowing the personalities of the people you're delegating to, right? So we have 5-6 guys, and they all have different personalities. Some of them work good with each other, and some of them don't. And you have to pay attention to that, or else it all falls apart. Because you send this person, and it's happened where I thought this person can work great with that person. That person's got a lot of energy, and so does that person. And then I got a call, like, later that day, like, I can't work with this person. And I thought, well, how can you not? This guy's exactly...
Too much energy together starts a fire.
They can't work together because the lead has too much energy, and he can't slow down enough to, like, give the other guy guidance. And if you don't give him guidance, the other guy just goes off and does whatever he thinks, like, he keeps busy. He needs the guidance. It doesn't work. So keeping knowing their personalities and knowing how they work, and then trying to make sure you put those people together, you know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge too.
There's definitely an art and a process to delegation. I think that's great. And so the last question, actually I think I have 2 more questions I want to touch on. What's your general, and we've spoken, I think we've touched on it already a little bit, what's your general business philosophy? What do you think about your approach to your business that makes you successful?
I think something that small businesses, we take on everything, every job that comes in, we want it. Like, especially when you start out, you take everything on. Yeah. My wife will meet clients or talk to a client on the phone or whatever, and she says, talk to me and say, how do you get these clients? How do you get such nice clients? Because we don't take on every job. If I meet with somebody, you know, our first meeting is usually just to see. I tell them, like, this is just to see if we're going to work together. Because if it doesn't work between you and me, as the contractor and the client, I don't need your job. We don't need the job just to fill in the space.
Right.
It's not worth it. So really just working with good people, both employees and clients.
And customers. That's great.
I don't know who said it, but just like firing your bad customers, right? Yeah. Like, it's super important to do that, or else you get stuck. And we know we've all done it. And everybody I talk to that's in any business they've taken on a job or a client they know isn't
the right
work,
fit,
and it's not the right fit, and inevitably it always goes bad. Always.
Yeah, that's something I'm trying to be mindful as I'm building my business too, is like having those meetings with people, and I try and be really upfront and say, hey, like, if I want this to be a good fit both ways, like, this isn't about just making a sale, right? Yeah. I don't want to sell you something that I can't actually deliver on, and I want to make sure that you actually need the help that I'm providing, you know, because it needs to be. For me, business is a partnership, right? And so it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. I don't want to just be extracting value from you. I want you to feel like I've provided you so much value that you absolutely want to pay me for 100%. It. you know.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, yeah, you want to walk away. I'm sure your clients, if they walk away with a beautiful kitchen, their dream kitchen, yes, I want to pay you for it. I feel good about doing it.
Absolutely. But we run into them because we get, you get referred from somebody. Well, you don't get to choose who they're who somebody's referring out.
Yeah.
That's something that I would recommend to people starting out. Like, be very clear with what you do. So we do kitchen and bathroom remodels.
Mm-hmm.
We don't build fences. We don't build decks. We don't do roofs. Like, we don't do that stuff. So it took a long time to train everybody in our sphere to know that's what we do.
How to refer.
Because I don't want to get a call about a fence, because then I've got to spend time. Somebody's got to call that person back and tell them we don't do that.
Right.
I don't mind giving them a referral to somebody who does do that. We have plenty of people that we refer to, but it'd be better if our everybody knew and they just didn't give us.
Yeah, if all your leads were already qualified for you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So it's taken a long time to get to this point, but now it's almost exclusively, such and such wants a kitchen done, such bathroom done. I mean, there's always stuff that comes
ancillary stuff.
But then we have great
referral
partners that we refer everything out to.
Yeah, that's great. So the last piece that I want to touch on is, like, how are you, being 2 hours away, managing a crew remotely? How are you managing your time and the tasks and everything that needs to get done effectively?
For me, it's a challenge. Time management is a huge challenge because I love talking to people.
That's why I had you on the podcast.
I really enjoy it. It's a challenge. And I will go to our job sites, and it's even a challenge just with my crew of guys. Like, go there, and they're all personable. And it's a big challenge with having guys that are good at talking and good with people, is that they're all good with people. So if you put too many of them on one job, they don't. Right? It's like, and you can't crush that, because they don't. Then when are they going to know when to talk? Oh, can I talk to the client? Like, it's a fine line. We walk with that.
Right.
But like, my time management, I try to put everything on my schedule and do only the things that I can do from here when I'm here.
Right.
So I try not to sit. We have an office here. We have an office in Auburn where we live. I try to spend as little time in an office here as possible.
Okay.
Because I can do that office work when I'm at home.
Yeah.
And
are you using any kind of, like, system or piece of software or something to kind of, like, keep everything organized?
I do all mine in Google Calendars for all of that. We have Drive. We use Google Drive for everything.
Okay.
That was another thing that my wife had, like, wanted to use Drive. Put everything in Drive, and I fought it. And if she could hear how many times I say to a client, like, I'm so happy she has me using Drive, because, like, their plans will be in Drive.
Yeah.
I can pull it up on my phone, or I'm with the guys, and then we don't have a paper set of plans, and I can show them, or they have access to it too. They don't all use it, but they can pull up the plans.
Beautiful.
Right there. So the technology side of it is great. It's just a challenge because of this. If and when we get to the next level, just the one next level, I could really spend the time. It'd be worth it to train everybody in using more of the technology.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not going to be profitable to spend. We'd be spending more time using technology than actually just working.
Yeah, there's a fine line. There's a fine line there where, some of it is always to those setting the foundation to build for the future. Sure. And so, you're not making money now, but in the future, it's going to enable you to make money. We
have a project management program that we use, and we just barely skim the surface of what's available. It's so much in it that to train somebody, we wouldn't use all of it. Yeah. So it's a challenge.
Yeah. That's for sure. So let's go into a little more of the personal stuff now. Is there any kind of, like, routine or things that you do in your day, like, that you feel set you up to have a successful day?
Well, driving down here, I leave early in the morning, and every day when I drive down, I listen to a podcast or podcasts. Right now, I'm catching up on Jesse Cole, who runs the Savannah Bananas.
Oh, yeah.
So I started listening to his podcast. We started in 2017, so I'm working my way from 2017.
Holy smokes!
To now. Okay. And he has great guests, and he's just off the wall and has these crazy ideas, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
To be a little different than everybody else, and that's kind of how we are as a construction business. Like, we're not the normal, like, what you picture as a construction crew.
For sure.
So I do that on my way down, and then on my way home, I always listen to an Audible book on my way home. So
like, always be learning.
Always. And I've got like 80 titles in there, and I have probably 20 on my wish list, and I just wait for the credit to pop up that says like you're ready to get another one, and I get a new one and go through that. I spend 8 hours a week in the car, consistent driving.
So you use all that time.
Use that time for
I mean,
for good.
That's like the blessing and curse about having a commute is that I don't have a commute. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, but it's all in the in between times doing yard work.
Yeah.
I mean, driving 10 or 15 minutes, sure, but it's all like little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Whereas when I used to have a longer commute, that was a great time to do two things: listen to books on tape, well, not on tape, listen to Audible or podcasts, and then call people I hadn't talked to in a while.
Yep, that's something that I do a lot. I don't do it as much as I should because it's a lot easier, more comfortable just to turn on a podcast or Audible than it is to call somebody.
Oh yeah.
But it's a great way to I can not do phone calls throughout the day, and then I can call people on my drive home.
Yeah, of course, hands free.
Yes,
being safe,
of course.
Following all applicable laws.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
So I think one thing that has to be challenging, and this is something I've talked to a lot of people, most of our guests about, is work-life balance. Yeah. Right? Finding that line, especially if you want to try and grow your business. How do you manage that in your own life?
It's a challenge for sure. We have a 2.5-year-old. It takes a lot of our time. We had her late in life, and I'd like to spend as much time with her as possible. It's a real challenge right now with how to make it work. Balance. And I've heard a lot of people talk about there's really no way to balance it. It's just seasons. You can at this time of your life you can spend a lot of time on your work, and at this time it's all about our family right now. Yeah. So I don't know that there is a real balance to it.
I think the question is how do you make it? How do you prioritize the season you're in?
Sure.
What's your approach to that?
It's tough. Right now we have an office outside of our house. So we have, downtown Auburn, we have our office there. So we can actually go there and focus on
so you
work.
have some context switch.
That's really nice to be able to actually get a focused place and not try to work from home. And then one thing I had to, over the years working with my wife, is not bringing work into everything we do, which is a challenge.
Yeah.
Until we had a kid, it was all we really had was we ran a business.
Well, everyone comes home and talks to their spouse about how the workday went. If you're working together, then of course all you're going to do is talk about those things.
And it's really hard not to leave the separation, and then it's hard just to keep the separation of business and work.
Not to let your relationship just be about your work, right? Because that doesn't keep a spark alive, I'm sure.
No, and then it's tough to leave the work away from your personal stuff. It's a challenge. You really have to work. You have to work at it.
As someone who has worked with 3 brothers and a dad in a family business, I can say that every family gathering inevitably ends up discussions about business. And no matter how some of us try to intentionally stay away from those conversations, other of us are just they're just going to talk about it, but I know I always try and not bring up work as much as possible. Then that's all it ever is. My entire relationship with you is just about work. And that's not a way to live.
No.
As much as having a farm is a lifestyle business. Absolutely. Right? But it's just let's I want to know you and spend time with you in a capacity that isn't just about work. So I think that's important. So let's get to let's jump into some of the kind of the bonus question time here. So what are some of the books, big Audible guy, so what are some of your favorite, unless you've read them or listened, some of your favorite books you've recommended?
When I saw
or gifted?
the name of the podcast, anything by Jim Collins is awesome. So
and that is the inspiration is Good to Great.
I have all 6 of them on, and I just love how those books were all.
They're very practical. They feel very practical, real. Good recommendations.
Yeah, for businesses that are billions of dollars in revenue, they're relatable to us. This guy, Jesse Cole, I listened to his most recent book. It's super good.
Yeah, actually, we had another person on, and he also recommended that book.
Yeah,
so
I
might have to check it out.
I can't remember what it's called. One's called "Wear Your Yellow Tux" or something like that. That was his first one. The second one, I can't remember what it is.
Well, it'll be I'll put it in the podcast description. I do have a list of all books that have been recommended.
Perfect.
Yeah, and who recommended them.
Yeah, I every time I listen to a podcast, I put like somebody will recommend a book, and I just listened to it's called Bluefish.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the guy's name, but he has a business called Bluefish, and it's like a lifestyle brand. Like he does like, I don't want to say party planning, but he for wealthy people, they want something specific. Like he did like a dinner at the Vatican with like the Pope there or something, like, and he makes that all happen. So I just listened to his book. It was really good.
Interesting.
Kind of about putting yourself out there and not taking no for an answer, and why not?
Yeah.
Why not you? Like, why can't you do? I think about it with our construction business. Like, we do things a little different. Like, we're not rough and tough, and like, I don't yell and scream at people. And like, well, why does it have to be construction? Have to be that way?
Right.
Why can't we use technology to do the things that maybe in the past you didn't? You worked harder and not smarter.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Those are some good recommendations. And the other question we're asking everyone is, if you could give people one piece of advice and put it up on a billboard over a busy freeway, what would it be?
I think with hiring people, I would say hire for character and not like look for people's character and not their abilities. It's just something that I think is like it's super important.
Well, clearly it's yielded results for you, right? I mean, being able to hire, I'm impressed that you've been able to hire those young kids and have them stick with you. That's hard to do. I know that from personal experience.
Yeah, it's not really a life message, I guess, but
there's lots of people lots of people hire people regardless, and I think that's good. I think that's good advice.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for taking time to be on the podcast. It's been a pleasure for me as well. Where can people find you?
LarrabureConstruction.com.
How do you spell Larrabure?
LARRABURE Construction.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, under Larrabure Construction.
Under Larrabure Construction.
I'll have links to all that in the description as well. Yeah. This has been another episode of On the Flywheel. Once again, I am your host, Jonathan Mart. You can find more about Flywheel Consulting at flywheelconsulting.co. Thank you, and have a great day.